then this idea of factoring by grouping, also here, remember, would it make a difference if I wrote negative 15x plus 4x? Like, are these two expressions different?
No.
Could I factor both of these by grouping? Yes. Okay, so, what's up, Jackie?
So we get rid of B when we make a new problem?
We didn't get rid of B because what does negative 4 minus 15 add up to?
11.
Okay, so we're just breaking it down. We ain't getting rid of nothing. Okay? So, which one would you like to factor by grouping, the top or the bottom?
Bottom.
Okay, let's do the bottom one. So remember, we're separated into two groups. So when I'm talking about factoring, what am I looking for? Xavier? What am I looking for when I need to factor? What do I have to take out of this expression? I'm looking for that GCF, right? So what's that going to be, Kadeja? In this first group, what would the GCF of 3x squared minus 15 be?
5.
Just the greatest common factor between both of them. Does 5 go into both of them? 3. Is there anything else I could factor out that goes into both of these? Okay, so I can factor out a 3 and an x. And so a way I saw Mr. King do this in the last class is he kind of wrote above the expression like, okay, well, if 3x is common in both of these terms, then what am I multiplying here to get back to my 3x squared? Okay, so one more. What would the inside of this factor look like?
X minus 5.
Okay, so to get back to this 3x squared minus 15x, okay, so how can I check that I factored this correctly?
Multiply so you can get the top.
Right, just multiply it right back in. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 5 is... Okay, so then what about coming over here to this, and then to this second group? KT, what's the GCF?
4.
Okay, so I could factor out a 4 here, which would mean I need to multiply what, Jesus? Okay, so to get that 4x, I would need an x, and then what about how am I going to get that negative 20? Okay, minus 5. Okay, so guys, what do you notice about this line? Okay, we have 2 of the same factors, and remember, is that what we want? So how can I rewrite this in factored form to represent the standard form from this? Okay, so the inside parentheses is one factor, and then we can take what's left, I guess, to multiply as the other factor. Okay, so from here, how do I know if I'm right? I have two expressions. I have a standard form and a factored form. Is there a way I can verify that these are equivalent? How? Okay, let's do it.
That means pick up the calculator.
Mr. King, which one was it that we had set up on?
If you go back to where the documents are, you see that second document on the bottom? Yeah, that
Yes. Okay, so our original was the 3x squared minus 11x minus 20.
It's already Zoom standard. I would just graph the other one, not sweat seeing the vertex. Because you can
Okay.
tell if they snap or not.
So then guys, so to check if we've done this correctly, make sure we actually found the factored form, graph exactly what we solved for. Or I guess we haven't solved for it yet. Graph exactly what we found. Okay, so what do you notice? here. Okay, so parabola, but I graphed two functions on here. Do you see two distinct functions? They're overlapping, which means that they're doing what? Do you remember that mathematical term?
Map.
They're mapping to each other. So, did we factor this correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you want me to talk through the solving part?
Yeah.
At this point? Oh, you wanted to send out, we need to send out that other poll question, don't we? 1.2?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so this is a, answer this honestly. This is to help me and Mr. Kenny figure out where you guys are with this factoring stuff, where we need to go from here. It doesn't count against you at all, so just be honest.
Just help
And
us
then just do it quickly.
figure out who to help,
Yeah,
where.
make sure you click that submitted when you're done, waiting about 7 of you. Okay. Okay, make sure you click submit.
How about, I clicked on mine.
I don't know, that's what Mr. Kenny told me last class, so.
What's the issue?
I clicked off mine.
It's not a document. See what it says C, quick
There's
poll?
waiting about 6 people.
No, just click C. It helps when you use both hands. I'll have to find one, but I'll find it sometime today. I know I have no
Okay, everyone click the answer. Okay. I'm sorry, is there a
There's the Vertex one.
but do you wanna talk about this first, or do the Vertex? Cause in
I
this
think
class,
I-
we left off far enough, I think they could get it. We can
Let's
talk through it.
have the conversation when we get to the textbook, that one that you're talking about.
Somebody's missing out.
Yeah.
Okay, so changing gears a little bit. Remember yesterday is when we started talking about vertex form. Okay, y'all remember bringing that back up? So what we were doing here is we were given this equation in standard form. Could we factor it?
No.
No. So remember the first thing you always want to do is try to factor it.
One thing I actually want to clarify, this one you could factor.
Oh, well, I was just gonna bring that up because the directions say find it in vertex form, so at least that's the method we're gonna tackle.
Mhm.
But if it just said to solve this equation, which is what we're eventually getting to, we're solving these things. If it just said solve it, the first thing you'd want to do is check if it was factorable. If it's not factorable, then what do you need to do? Why do I want to graph it? Because what can I do with the graph of that parabola? I can find the vertex. And then once I find the vertex, what can I do?
Right in the vertex.
Okay, do y'all remember this a little bit from yesterday? Might help to get your notes out. This is kind of where we started talking about completing the square, but we're not doing it algebraically, we're doing it graphically. Okay, so take a few minutes in your groups and work on that, and then we'll kind of come back together, talk about this one, and then Mr. Kenny's going to explain like how this all ties together with everything we've been doing and finding solutions and stuff.
I will say, I will keep it.
So guys, notice this one just says you have to write it in vertex form. We don't have to find the solutions yet. We'll be doing that later when we actually solve for x. Is that what you need? I don't know what you're here for.
Okay, y'all can make a copy, 'cause I don't know, we had extras.
I don't know where they went, dude.
I know, I'm in the same boat, and I'm like so confuzzled. Confuzzled, yep, I picked that word on purpose. It's not a word, I know this. Huh? Yeah, I'm confuzzled. It's beyond confused.
Oh wait, at the end of class, guys, I'm gonna show y'all a picture of my dog. Okay.
That would get out of your way.
Why
Is that his dog? Want to see the picture of my dog? Wait, Okay, so if you're stuck after you graph it, what are you looking for? Okay, so can you use the calculator to help you find the vertex? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes. Oh, hey guys, look up here real quick. Bomar just asked me a really awesome question. He said, no, it is awesome. Don't worry. He said, do we have to find A? Do we have to find A? Yeah. Well, what does vertex form look like? So do I need A to have a real vertex form? Is there a way, do I have any information that I could find this A value? Well, that's when we're solving for, that's when we're trying to find the solution, remember? But I'm just talking about this A value. Where does that A value come from? Right, it means the concavity. Think about this. Does the A value in vertex form have any relationship to itself in its other forms? It's the same. So do we know what it is? Well, what's the A value, guys? Okay, because remember we're talking about the A value, we're talking about the coefficient in front of that x squared. So do we have to do any soul searching for this A value? It's given to you. So thank you, Mamar. That was really good. I'll erase this. I guess you just think, since this is where we left off, I just left off, and he was kind of practice into it yesterday, so. What's after
There's two of these. This one and then one more.
Did you find X?
Oh, okay, so now I'll let you practice. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, so you know what the A value is, so substitute it for what?
I know,
Okay.
you combine them like, x minus 6x squared.
How do we get vertex on the calculator? What?
And then it'll be like,
Ask KT.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, okay, well, what is the, for Tyrese, what is the vertex on the calculator? Right, you remember that? So why is it gonna be either minimum or maximum?
Marquita.
Right, and because it's, what's the shape of it? Well, it's a parabola.
I don't know.
Y'all weren't paying attention when this coordinator was having a conversation with these guys. Look at the problem you're doing on the calculator. Does it have an equal zero anywhere?
No.
Okay, that's what it is. Is the equal zero means we're solving.
Right.
We're not solving yet, right? It just said put it in vertex form. Because what does it mean to solve something? We'll find it something that makes it, so that's when we say equal to zero and find what x equals. Does it ask us that yet? No, it just wants it in vertex.
Okay, you have standard. Y'all identified your vertex. What is the vertex? Just in general.
We're not solving.
Pay attention more to the front. Do you know what A
We're about
is?
to, don't solve it.
Do you know what H is?
Okay, we're
Do you
gonna
know
talk
what
about
K is?
that.
That's all
But
you had to do here. Stop making your life
y'all have
hard.
y'all's vertex form? I feel like y'all are don't solve it. We're not doing that yet. Cause let me explain real
Right,
quick.
it's an understood one.
What? I'm about to.
And then you can go to their answers if you want to share those. Oh, you don't want to do those yet?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so something, guys, it just says to write it in vertex form. And a lot of you have gotten there, but now you set it equal to zero and you're solving for x. So why are you doing that? why do we set something equal to 0? To find solutions, right? So what does it mean to find solutions? Right, we're looking for those values that would make this equation true. Does it say to solve or find solutions for this? It just says write it in vertex form. So most of you got there and we're good. Like for that point up to now. And then Mr. Kenny's going to talk to y'all about the whole why we're trying to find solutions and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and go over this one. So whenever you grafted okay, so guys, whenever you graph this one, what was this one?
X squared minus 5x, or minus 6x plus 5.
Okay, so whenever you graph this, what do I need to do now, KT?
Find the minimum.
I'm like, why is it the minimum?
Is this the vertex?
Because it's the vertex of,
The parabola.
right, the parabola that's concave up, so okay, so once you found that minimum, what does 3 and negative 4 represent in terms of my vertex formula? Those are my H and K. So, do I need to change anything about this minus? Right, well, I don't need to change the sign. It's just minus 3. But then what about my K? What do I need to write here? Okay, so minus 4. And then also remember, if we do have an A value of 1, you don't necessarily need to write that because it's just multiplying 1 times whatever. So, okay, does anyone have any questions about this process? This is one, remember this is why we're not completing the square algebraically, we're doing it graphically. And it was all that, his bad drawings and stuff that he explained to y'all yesterday.
Can't go to add.
Oh, that's for them squares he was talking about?
Yeah, the squares.
Oh.
Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry, Miss.
So you only find the zeros when you find the solution?
Yes. Well, okay, zeros are, okay, wait. Yes, if it says find a solution, that's when you want to solve the equation, right? So when we're in factored form and you're solving the equation, those x values represent what? If you solve a quadratic that's in factored form, what is it telling you? It's telling you the zeros, right? So those are our solutions. So does that make sense? Alright.
Okay. Well, let's do one more.
Oh, do you want to do the
other
other one
practice
first?
problem? Yeah, let's do the other practice problem. Then when we
Okay.
get to the book, I'll just have that
Sorry, I didn't
conversation.
realize we had another, I forgot we had another.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more practicing in vertex form. But I want you guys to kind of figure this one out for yourselves a little bit more. Like, do what we just did, but figure yourself. And I'm around to help. Support.
You were black.
That was good.
So you were black. I am indeed. She just, I don't know what she is. So you were
Yeah,
Christian.
I just write. Yeah. What questions do you need to ask? Because you didn't ask a single one earlier when this morning. I was trying to get you to ask questions.
We're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
You would. Recording.
Oh, y'all missing Thursday, I ain't trying to know her.
Well, if you're in my class, you're doing some work. If you ain't in my class, then obviously you don't have to. Jaquan, there's only, hey Jaquan. Jaquan. I would use the graph paper over that.
That's what I did. What you
I
talking about?
don't like the line, you know, like equation.
Maybe two.
Okay. I would hole punch it later then.
You know, I'm doing all, you know.
I don't know what you just said.
Are we solving it?
That's why you do that.
What?
I said, I'm not from here, that's why you laugh when I be talking.
I didn't laugh. I just said I don't know what you said.
Okay.
Everyone else laughed.
They don't want to be broke.
The only thing I'm gonna
It's not the best
say
one, there's
is,
two on the
what's,
back table.
so you have your vertex is 1 comma, like that? How does that fit into this equation? So remember the original form is the, it's x minus h squared plus k is the standard form, so you need to know that to be able to write it in the right vertex. That would be right.
So just saying numbers, I'm just gonna say.
How do you find a little point?
Okay, so you menu, analyze graph, and I don't know why you got a line on there.
Drag your little.
No, you can just write down a sheet of paper.
So,
Graph it. Like, all you have to do, yeah, all you'd have to do is click this little button here to open up your scratch pad.
The vertex, the middle. There you go.
But do you understand how to get that vertex?
After you do that, you can plug in
Okay,
anything.
first off, do you understand why?
so
we
once
do
you
that
have the vertex, can you put it into the
One thing I
vertex
would do
form?
if I were y'all,
And what's the
I would
only
if
other
I
thing
write
you
down
need to
my
know?
vertex form, like
You
you
need to know the
have
A value.
negative 2x
But do you
squared
know what the A value is,
plus
Sheridan?
4x
So
plus
you write
1.
your vertex.
I'm gonna write down my vertex.
Yeah, it will be to the negative 2. So you can
I didn't
use
know
all
it
that
was
to
negative
write
2.
your stuff in vertex form.
Now I just need to figure
On
out.
that.
Y'all correct me if I'm
After you
wrong.
get your birthday.
So, what is your age?
Yeah.
Just
I'm
put that.
gonna rewrite the vertex.
It is what it is, don't change.
Okay, so x plus 1.
Wait, so what you
I got one.
Plus
I got a
one.
negative,
So
how
how
can
can
I
I check
check
to
the
see if
negative
that's
two?
correct?
Oh.
I think you got one.
So I'm gonna.
Right, so maybe if you just wrote it with it long, it looks different.
Parentheses,
This right.
x,
You said right
plus
vertex.
1 squared
plus 4?
plus 3.
Plug, yeah,
What
plus
do you
1.
mean? 18 K.
I just rewrote the vertex.
Yeah, I got it
To see if I memorize it.
Okay.
I got the answer
A lot of
right.
it looks correct, but it's a little off.
Depends on negative 2.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah, that's right.
Well, you gotta write the negative 2X right here.
I think it would be okay if you write your answer as f of x equals the vertex form. But as long as you're not solving it past that point, I think that's fine. Unless it happens.
You have 1 comma 3. If you do x minus 1,
Is this the right vertex form?
also
I just rewrote it.
Yes.
Right
Good job.
here, this is a positive 1.
You got it?
So the equation is x minus 1.
Okay, what's your A value?
So I think you would do the inverse and again. So it's just, that's a
Negative 2, so
positive.
don't forget to write your A value in the vertex form, it's the same.
Not negative 2x squared.
Well, what's just A is just the negative 2, right?
One thing to clarify and have them be careful about is there is no f of x or y in this, so we just need the expression.
I just told you that's what happened, so. Well, I said it wouldn't, I said if you're rewriting in vertex form, it doesn't matter. I said, as long as you're not solving, setting it equal to 0 to solve.
Well,
Because it asks the equivalent of vertex form.
right,
We
but it's,
know
because it's an expression, I want it as an expression.
What? I know, but when you say
Everybody see
vertex,
what it is.
there's a have that.
Right, so I guess in the future, you might need to clarify, that's the vertex form of a function, but if you have an expression, that's still a vertex.
When you don't believe in.
But we just have an expression, not a function. Does that make sense, that difference? And like, that's my point on that previous.
So you're gonna write that.
I mean, so it's fine for now. That's actually a good discussion point. Does that make sense? So like, that's still vertex form of the expression, and that's what's happening in this case.
I do, but it's certain.
Yeah, it goes on that top shelf back there.
She really wanted you to walk through.
Why don't you type that into the calculator and check?
I was trying to write my name in my right leg. Yeah, I can read this one, so you just type that way. God was.
Well, I will point out, is it this first one or is it the second one? Because what Jesus has is that first one.
I write my
I ain't say that. You know that. Well,
That's his, he can just
but
say
it's not true because I said it. It's true because
Remember, what's the A value you're saying? Negative 2. Is that what you're saying? And your first name?
Oh, 419.
It is your second one, but he didn't have that.
I'm still trying to think about it.
Look at your A value, use the vertex form.
Or you graft it.
I mean, is it negative 2
No.
A's?
Well, you know what?
That A doesn't change.
Why is it so
Magically.
Analyze.
My last name
Negative, well, it's
is
negative 2
I write it
A's, the rest of the vertex form. Parentheses, X minus 1, X squared still low. Right?
No.
Vertex in.
I'm not.
Remember your vertex is 8. So you can put that
When you
in.
wrote the vertex form out,
I just missed
Obviously,
out.
she didn't take this.
it's harder to make that mistake when you have the
Okay, so then you know what this A value is?
How's it going?
Say yeah, because it's the same as it was in the standard. It don't change, that's right. So you can write final vertex.
I want you to notice you typed out f of x equals, but originally was there an f of x equals?
Loud and proud.
Right, so notice we don't have a function, we just have an expression.
Cool.
If there's no f of x there, you can't just magically put the f of x in. That's the vertex form of the expression. Does that distinction make sense? This would create a true function, and that's what the graph was a function. But I was just asking the vertex form of the expression.
Okay, can we start
Yeah, I
this one?
think for the most part, everyone's good.
Jake Quan got it. So,
Yeah, he's not complaining too much anymore.
no, he's happy because we put our brain to it, we got it.
Yeah, before Ms. Courtney actually goes over this, does anyone actually have a question, or did we all get it?
Yeah, we all get it, I don't know.
So something I will say, guys, is pay attention that this A value is negative. So when you graph it, your parabola is gonna look what? It's gonna be concave down, also just make sure you're, yeah, it'll be a maximum when you analyze the graph. But just make sure you're paying attention to the values you're given and how you're transferring them over through your work. Because rewriting this as a positive 2 in the calculator, it's gonna change, it's gonna make it wrong, right? It's a little procedural error. Okay, so you have to pay close attention to what you're getting and what you're putting in your calculator. Because sometimes that step is what you don't realize you did it wrong, and you can't figure out what went wrong. Okay, so we can go over this one real quick. So we graphed it. Negative 2x squared minus
Minus 4x? Plus 4x?
plus 4x. Okay, so after I did this, Jaquan, what'd you do? What'd you have to do after you graphed it? You hit the menu button, because what are we doing with this menu button? Uh-huh. Because we're looking for that vertex, right? So we found what that is, and something else I noticed, guys, make sure you know what the vertex form looks like. It's x minus h squared, don't forget our little square, plus k. Okay, you need to know that to be able to write it correctly. So from here, this vertex of 1 and 3 represent what values in the vertex formula? Okay, h and k. So we can substitute them in here, and then do we know what the a value is? -2. Okay, remember, how can I check myself to make sure that this vertex form is equivalent to the standard form I was given? Okay, have y'all done that yet?
Nope.
Okay, so if you haven't done it, go ahead and do it. If you have done it, hold tight for a second. We'll let everyone do this.
I see.
So remember, you can add another function and graph. This is what you'd want to graph to check your answer. Maybe make a note of that.
What did that even?
Huh?
Okay, that's the new brown.
Okay, so what do you notice about the parabolas?
They open up.
What does it mean if they overlap?
Mapping.
They're mapping. Okay, remember that mathematical language we're using here, that this one function is mapping to the other one. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about vertex form? Okay, so Mr. Kenny's kind of about to talk to y'all about how we use all this stuff, but don't y'all think vertex form is easier?
Yeah.
Okay, but remember, what's the first thing you have to do? What's the first method we would do? We would have to see if it's factorable first, right? And if it's not factorable, then we can do what? We can graph it and try to write it in vertex form. Because remember, this is all preparing us to solve these equations and find the solutions. Okay.
Okay, quick couple of, so we're going to get into the textbook. So I want you to go ahead and open up to, what page was it? 82 right now. And I want you to write some notes to yourself at the bottom of 82. Today, John, you see all that? Pick up a pencil, let's write some stuff down. Alright, couple of quick things I do want to make sure we're clear on. Alright, because I do think that this is something that I've seen a couple of students do. Please notice like the difference, or there's a slight difference between these two things. This would be the vertex form of a quadratic function, right? F of x equals, that's a function. Whereas, is this a function? No, it's just an expression, right? We can still graph the expression to see if they're equivalent, but when you're given an expression, you can't just magically put an equal sign in, right? And earlier, y'all were technically just given an expression. So don't put the equal sign in the f of x or the equal sign in a 0. Be careful when it's an expression, just start with that expression. But looking here at the slide, so we're going to talk through this idea. Remember, lesson 5, the root of the problem, is all about solving quadratic equations. We focused yesterday on factored form to solve a quadratic equation, and today we're going to focus on the vertex form. Now, I do want you to pay attention to a couple of things that Ms. Courtney said, or actually I'm going to pull those back up because they addressed this concept. But if I have, actually, let's do this really quickly. Yeah, so there's our learning goals, right? We've been working on factoring and rewriting quadratic functions. And I'm going to address that second bullet about completing the square in a second because I confuse people and I don't want that to happen. So here's what I want us to look at right here. Actually, if we started with that, yesterday we started with x squared plus 10x plus 12 equals 0. First things first, we're trying to solve an equation like this. What does that mean?